tasted.
as I drink it first.
Yeah.
It's just soda.
Or whiskey.
Tennessee whiskey?
Kidding.
No, it's not. That'd be funny. You drinking whiskey is the funny part.
Yeah, just drinking it like it's juice.
Yeah, like this juice just chugging it. No burn. So, like I was saying, this is a topic that I think you'll have a lot to chime into, but it has to do with. So, I have a story, but I think it will tie into, and I'll tie it into like marriages specifically, but it's prefaced with the scripture of Proverbs 14:30. A heart at peace gives life to the body, but envy rots the bones. And so my story is how when I first opened the barbershop back in 2013, I soon went from being a solopreneur, so just being me, to quickly after needing more people. And I went from one hire to the next and eventually to more. But the second person I ever hired was Josh, right?
Hmm.
And I went from this, I need to grow, trying to find people, and I found two people, and I found Josh that was locally established for a while, had his clientele, was looking for something new, reached out to him, and eventually we merged, or he came on board, and it worked.
Right.
It worked for, I want to say, 2.5 to 3.5 years. And in that time, he mentioned to me, like, hey, like, I'm not going to be here forever. Like, I
Yeah.
want to do my own thing. And I've never said anything about it. I was in my mind, I was always like, all right, we'll see.
But you also knew because you saw it in him how
Yeah,
he was different from the others.
yeah, for sure. I mean, at that time, maybe I didn't know because
Not in the
I hadn't
beginning,
experienced enough people at that time to know what someone who was ambitious would look like.
but I feel like I remember you telling me that you you see that he's not gonna be there for much longer because you can see that.
The hunger.
Yeah.
Yeah, and so eventually the day came where he said, "Hey, Jonathan, like, I'm ready to take this next step," and he included me in as much as he wanted and felt comfortable doing. And I even went to one of the locations, which ended up being his first location in Natick.
It's
And
not Ashland.
no, you already forgot the towns.
Oh yeah.
And so that was his first location, and it went from like someone working for me to them starting their own venture. And like I'm gonna be very honest and vulnerable here. It was, and I think a lot of people who have owned a business feel this way, where you are happy for somebody, but deep down you're like, I kind of hope they don't make it because then it was because of me that they were able to be successful. And like th- I didn't wish ill against him and his business, but there was definitely well, we'll see what happens. Maybe he'll come back, and if he comes back, then that means that it was me that made him successful.
And if we're
And
all being honest, I think we all feel that in some sometime.
yeah, and we'll get there. But then it was okay. It went from one shop. It was there for maybe a year, and then it went to I'm gonna open up location number two, and the location number two was in the mall,
Hmm.
which the mall part didn't have any sort of effect on me, but it was just the fact that it was number two,
Hmm.
and I was like, whoa,
But not just that, but a lot of people were asking me like, "Oh, he's
yeah,
gonna open up another location. When are you gonna open up another?"
yeah, and that ties into what I'm gonna say is, so then it went from number two to the number three, number four, number five, and the only thing that kind of kept me completely stripped, not stripped, because I definitely was prideful because I wasn't able to celebrate with him. I even went, this better than anybody. I went through this season of having to disconnect myself from him on social media and seeing all the things that he was doing. A bubble
Mm.
just came out of my mouth.
Was it a
It
bubble?
was a full bubble.
What?
Yeah. Um, disconnecting myself from him, but also disconnecting myself from anybody else in the industry that was a shop owner,
Mhm.
because I was becoming discontent with what I had in my vision, in my plan. And not only did he start opening up more locations, but then other people started stepping into his plan of opening up the second location because they believed he's doing this is the logical next step for my evolution of my business.
Mhm.
And people kept coming to me and saying like, "Hey, when are you going to do it? When are you going to do it?"
Yeah.
Because they knew that he worked for me.
Mhm.
And I was always like, "Listen, that's not what I want to do." And even though there was times I'm like, "Man, like, is he able to do this?" I kept telling people like I have no desire to open up another location because someone else is doing that. And I kept saying like if there's anyone who can do it, it's Josh.
Yeah.
And that was like a conscientious thing that I was saying to people because I actually believed that it was him who was able to do it.
Yeah.
When other people did it, I was like, are they doing it because they feel like they just want to keep up? It was the version of keeping up with the Joneses.
Mm.
And it was that comparison game. And it took me from a place of not being able to truly celebrate with somebody, like being genuinely happy for them because it was his success and his identity and his purpose. I was losing sight of my contentment, my happiness, my joy in my business.
Mhm.
And I feel like that happened with a lot of people too. And a lot of people weren't able to succeed because they followed someone else's plan, someone else's blueprint. Some of the other people that followed suit with what he did lost their first location.
Mm.
Not Some of them lost their first location and ended up losing their marriage too. I don't know if the two are connected, but I would say that it overlapped a little bit here and there.
I mean, it takes a lot to do that. It's a lot of moving pieces. Also, find like with one location alone, it was hard to find balance, right, with home and work
Yeah,
when you're a shop owner. But now you're doing multiple locations and also balancing, what you have at home. So it's not for just anyone.
yeah, and it was me being robbed. So like I kind of titled this like comparison robbed me of my joy.
Mm. Yeah,
Bec-
definitely. Comparison is the thief of joy.
yeah, comparison definitely robs your joy and it robs you of your contentment too. And when we're confident in our own identity, right? I said in our purpose, you can choose not to be threatened by somebody else walking in their purpose and in their
Mhm.
identity.
Mhm. There's room for everybody
There's room
to thrive.
that not only that, but like the comparison of someone else's purpose, someone else's journey, someone else's blueprint.
Yeah.
That's not fair to myself
Mhm.
because that's not where my identity is.
Yeah.
My identity, first of all, it shouldn't even be in my business. It shouldn't even be in the materialistic things of this world, right? So I was lost in that. Thankfully, I was able to one. I had you to balance to keep me in check and to talk to and kind of have that safe place, but also just being able to say to myself, like, get to a point of like one disconnecting myself from that. But one thing I wish I had done sooner is learn to have celebrated with him
Mm.
because not only did I rob myself of joy, but I robbed myself of the ability to celebrate with someone in their success.
Yeah.
And I think that happens so often. I'm tying it back to marriage because
Mm.
we can see so often how our lives we compare in everything, career, money, family, marriage. First of all, social media paints a picture that is usually perfection.
Yeah.
And so when we look at someone else's marriage, we're like, oh, I
Well,
want
you're
that.
going to put the best pieces of yourself, right, in social media.
Yeah.
You're not going to put the rest. Not, I mean, now I feel like more people are doing that now, but I'm saying overall,
Yeah. But all to be said is like, we can't compare ourselves.
no.
Our marriage is our marriage.
Yeah.
where the only thing that we should compare it to is ourselves
And the
and where
thing
we want to get to. How can we get to where God wants us to be, not to where the world has
exactly.
us? And like
Yeah.
contentment also is important too. Like in Philippians 4:11, where Paul's talking to the Gentiles, I believe, where he says that I've learned to be content in little and I've learned to be content with a lot. My contentment isn't in the things that I have. My contentment is in God. And like as in a marriage, in a relationship, let's not compare ourselves to anybody.
Mhm. Well, plus, like, you married that person for who they are, and now you're comparing them, but losing track of who you married, right? Because you're comparing your, let's say, husband to somebody else's husband,
Hmm.
but they have their qualities. You don't know the whole story. And your husband also has his qualities, and you know the whole story.
Yeah.
So you can't, that's,
Well, you
how
know,
do you compare when you don't know the full story?
well, it's kind of like we want to sprinkle, like, oh, I like this about this husband. Let me sprinkle a little bit. I wish I can sprinkle a little bit of that onto my husband. Or I like this a little bit from over here. Let me sprinkle that onto my wife. And like we want to kind of build a bear our spouse or build
Yeah,
a bear our relationship.
but you're just creating issues.
You're
But
creating issues and you're not allowing yourself. It's unhealthy to compare ourselves to anybody else. Like
yeah,
we should have people that we strive to like have a marriage that we're like, oh, I want something like that. You can strive towards that, but you cannot be
you can
envious.
strive to learn,
You
right?
can strive to
Because you
learn.
should always be learning.
Yeah.
Marriage is a learning experience. Yeah.
But like when you have the peace of being able to like if I had truly at the time, and thankfully I got to the point where I was able to celebrate with him,
Mhm.
and like before we moved out of Massachusetts and kind of just talk for a few hours, and nothing was specifically said on like that stuff, although I think someday I'll have the ability to talk to him face to face and just apologize. But the peace that I think I could have got sooner if I had been able to celebrate with him, been able to like so many moments where I could have just celebrated with somebody and just said like, "Listen, man, I'm truly happy for you."
Yeah.
And like sometimes it comes out. I found this for myself that it comes out unnatural, like we've talked about in the past with certain things.
Mhm.
But when we practice it, like that feeds where I just read in Proverbs where like peace, a heart at peace gives the body is soulful for the body or gives life to the body. But like if we're not in that state, it rots us
Mhm.
from the inside out.
Yeah.
And that's gonna eventually reach our heart, and then we're gonna have a heart that is ill faced towards people,
Yeah.
and that one that's not attractive.
Mhm.
And it's not healthy for you or for anybody who's around you. It's better to be able to actually celebrate and get to a point of rejoicing when someone else has a success in their marriage, in their career,
Mhm.
because otherwise that contentment in your life is where you're not gonna have it.
Yeah. And I think too in marriage, I think a lot of times where we fall trapped to that comparison is when you're not happy about something in your marriage and you're trying to look for ideas, or you think you're like helping yourself, right? By saying like, oh, maybe that's how we should be and we're not doing that. So our like something's not right with our marriage. It's like because they seem happy and we're not doing that. But then it's again goes back to communication, right, with your spouse. What's not working? What's going on? Is there something that you're not happy about, that you're not being open, and vice versa?
Hmm.
Um, so I think a lot of times it comes from us trying to fix something. That comparison is like something we're just not happy about and we're trying to fix, right? So in terms of career, it's like, well, I feel like I don't have enough now.
Hmm.
So because he's doing this, so I have to do that to have enough.
Yeah.
And same thing in marriage. Like, feel like we're not connected. Maybe we need to be doing that, and he's not doing that, so he needs to do that for us to be happy. But we don't say, okay, what am I not doing right? Because that's where the real work is gonna start from, is yourself.
Yeah. And then so for us, comparison in like marriages or families. I can say that when we were going through the season of wanting to have kids and grow our family, I definitely felt that like happiness, but also envy when people were starting to have kids.
Mm,
And I think that that's something that a lot of people have is like when they're seeing someone else have the family that they so much desire with little ones coming into the mix, and you go from two people who are just married to now a little one and like growing your family, and people are seeing that, whether you're either struggling with getting pregnant or you're having miscarriages like we did, or we had both. I got to a place of like, this is tough. This is tough for me to celebrate with them because I want that so badly.
mhm,
And that's that comparison that it's it wasn't a full on like jealousy, right?
mhm.
But it was definitely a form of it
Yeah.
where it wasn't rotting my bones, but it definitely wasn't good for me
Well,
either.
I mean, we're human at the end of the day. We're human. We're gonna have those reactions, but it's what we do with those
Yeah.
reactions. If we're staying there and we're letting it rot our insides,
And like if
that's where it's toxic. But if we have it and we feel it and we acknowledge it, because like talking about it, it's acknowledging it
right.
and realizing like we're happy for it. Because right, we talked a lot about it. We're like we're happy for them. It's just hard,
Yeah.
and I think that's okay. That's
That
a
is okay.
healthy conversation to have. But
It's definitely okay cuz you also don't want to lie about what you're actually feeling.
no, and I think that's the thing. Like
But what you
as
mentioned of like,
Christians, we have to be honest too. But we have feelings,
yeah.
so we
But
can't just say everything's good.
what you're saying too, like say it out loud and pray about it, because
Yeah.
one thing is to think it and then stay there and let it fester, let it marinate, let it grow roots in your mind and then eventually in your heart, versus saying like, God, I know this is not a thought from you.
Hmm.
Take it captive. And why is your stomach always talking on every podcast?
Maybe because I always eat before.
But that would make no it would make sense that
I
you'd
know,
be
but whatever
hungry,
I eat is like
messing with
not
your
the
stomach.
right thing. Like a
Good
snacking, it's
lord.
not good. But also, like I think about yes, having those feelings, having those conversations. But then when we go to visit those people that had kids, like how happy we did feel for them
Yeah.
to be there and just like hold their baby and to like just I think we also knew that it was gonna happen for us.
Hmm.
Like we trusted what God had for us. Even though it was like really hard walking in that season, just like any valley that you're walking through is hard, right?
Yeah.
Um it was really beautiful to see it happen for other people and almost like healing in a way to be there with them in that season that they are walking in
Yeah,
we're
and
walking in.
I think that's important to like whatever you're going through, where it's like you're having to find healing in it. Don't avoid it,
Yeah.
because if you avoid it,
Yes.
then you're just again putting it in the closet and letting it grow into a monster.
Mhm.
Versus like you're putting it out there, you're asking God to remove this thought from me, and putting yourself in a situation where like actually try to be happy for this person.
Yeah.
And it's a lot easier to actually be happy for the person when you're with the person. I feel like at least that's been my experience.
But again, it's normal to be happy but also feel some type of way. But it's talking about that and working on that feeling.
But it's also being, like I said, it's also being confident in who you are and your purpose.
Mhm.
Because when someone has a success in something like what I was talking about with the business,
Mhm.
I'm like, great, man, that's awesome. You just opened up shop number 3. Like, I should have, I have no sort of envy, because that's not my purpose. That's not my goal. Why should why should I feel any sort of thing when I hadn't even thought about opening up shop number 3, because I haven't even opened up shop number 2,
Mhm.
right? So
Mhm.
like when we're confident in who we are, because we like you've mentioned before, I know whose I am. I know my relationship I have with God, and I know the purpose that He has for me, or the purpose that I have on this life, and the things that I plan. If it gets to a point where like, great, I'm actually thinking of doing something like that. great. But if
Mhm.
I'm not, who am I to have somebody else's identity and purpose have a crash party on what my identity and purpose is? It doesn't make any sense.
It's also the perfect opportunity for you to be like, "Hey, like, yeah, I really wanna do that too. How'd you do it? Can you give me advice on things that you did
Yeah.
versus,
Talk about a prideless person right there.
yeah." But the other piece is what you're saying. Don't a lot of times you're focused on like your comparison and you're thinking, oh, they're more successful than me. Now I have to do it. But you, is that really where you want to go? Because sometimes you don't even want to do that.
That's what I'm saying.
So what's the point of you feeling this way if that like I think sometimes we just gotta stop and be like, what am I doing?
Yeah.
Like this not even something I want. Like,
Yeah, you're over here jealous for like someone else having their third and fourth kid, and you're like, I could bar- I could barely handle two. What am I jealous about?
mhm.
You know what I mean?
No, because I never had that feeling.
Yeah, me neither. But up until two, I was like, yeah, I'm jealous, and then after two, I'm like,
Not even
good
honestly,
luck.
the second one, like the second time around, even though that was difficult too, I wasn't like, oh, I didn't feel that. I felt that the first time
I
because I was like, well, am I going to be able to have kids?
yeah
So that's a scary feeling. But when you have one, it's like, I know that my body's able, it's been there, but for some reason, it's not happening. So y- whatever God wants. Yes, it's hard because like it's what you want, but it didn't feel the same for me because we did have one.
yeah. It didn't feel the same for me either. But I definitely still got it. Where because everybody that we like, you got pregnant at the same time that a bunch of people got pregnant for the first time, and then by the time everyone wanted their second kid, everyone also got pregnant the second
Yeah.
time. So it was like, okay, they got pregnant, we got pregnant, they got pregnant, we didn't get pregnant.
Mm.
So it's just kind of like because of that. But I was also content with like, all right, at least we have the one. If we have just one, that's so be it.
Mm.
And then people after we had the second, people started having their third, and I'm like, nah,
Mm-hmm.
good with that. Keep it. You won. So I put down three things that I think can help. Well, it helped me if I could find it. I just lost it. Three things that can learn how we can learn contentment and not allow comparison to steal our joy. Because I don't think that this is something that we're necessarily born with. Some people have it, I believe, more naturally, where it's like a genuine thing that they have joy for other people. But I do think for the majority of us, maybe guys in particular, we have a more difficult time with this. And I said, one is knowing who you are again. Two is celebrating the success of others. And then three is practicing gratitude. The success of others I think, is super important because when you practice that, it becomes an actual it becomes like real truth to it.
Yeah, but I would even say that gratitude is more important because when you have a heart of gratitude,
You're thankful for
you're,
what you already have.
yeah, that's the space we have to be in,
Mm.
is thankful for what we have. And that then flows to be, wow, thankful for what that person has. I'm so happy for them
Yeah.
because it helps us celebrate because we're already happy with everything God has done in our lives.
Yeah. Yeah, it's true. I mean, you can interchange those for sure. But it definitely makes sense. Practice gratitude and practice celebrating other people's successes.
Yeah, what was the first thing you said?
Knowing who you are. Knowing who you are and knowing your purpose.
Yeah. So I think that's where goals, right? Writing down goals, writing down a plan is really helpful too. Because when you do that, then you have a vision. Because when you have it written down, you have it written down or on your phone, whatever it is, you see that vision, say, okay, what's my purpose again?
Mm-hmm.
What am I doing? What's this for? All this work I'm doing, what is it for?
Right.
Okay, then I'm on the right path.
Yeah, and then the goals that you set based off of what your purpose is, you can say like, this doesn't even align with my purpose.
Right,
This is
exactly.
completely. either came from watching too much social media, comparison to somebody
Yes.
else's life, versus like, all right, let me dump that and let me refocus, or let me
Yeah.
rewrite how that goal is set to put in my purpose with that goal.
Yeah, that's good. Because it's very easy to get distracted with outside voices, especially with social media.
And it happened.
Yeah, I gotta do that.
And especially like if you I mean, I'm speaking from the standpoint, from the point of view of being a small business owner. Boo. We're gonna get your stomach its own microphone.
I don't know what that was.
We're gonna get its own
Wait,
microphone,
can
and we're
you
gonna like do like it's
can
gonna make the noise, and then I'm gonna put like subtitles of what it's like.
you, can you hear it when you do?
No. So
Okay, good.
trust me, it's happening. She's actually, her stomach is actually having a
It was like
conversation.
whistling.
It's what it sounds like. It's like the sounds that whales make in the ocean.
Oh my gosh. What were you saying? Lost track now.
Um,
Distracted me 'cause I was gonna say something too. We were talking about planning goals.
yeah, I don't remember.
Why did you just not keep going?
It was hard not to. I mean, the thing like it would almost like pierce my eardrum.
Oh, okay. Exaggeration. But yeah, I don't know where we were going.
Don't compare. Don't compare. It will rob you of your joy. It will rob you
oh,
of your contentment.
yeah, it's like with a lot of homeschooling parents say this is like have a reason for what you're doing because we don't live in a world where it's normal,
That's what we
right?
were talking about. Social media.
To homeschool.
Yeah.
So you're gonna have pushback, and having that vision is not for you to defend yourself, but to know why you're doing it.
Mm-hmm.
To have
And that's
to
purpose.
when it's like, oh, this is so hard, like we didn't have a good day, or like why is this not clicking? Okay, here's our vision. This is why we're doing this.
And that's with everything.
Everything,
Not only
everything.
homeschooling, but
No,
business,
everything.
marriage,
Life.
career, life. Why am I serving? Why
That's
am
why it's good to have it written down so you can
Yeah.
see journaling or on your phone.
I like writing it down because it, I don't know, pen to paper.
I
Uh,
know, but even just like have because you have a lot of things on your phone that you've
No,
looked back on
yeah,
too.
I'm just saying for the purpose. Like I can pull out my notebook right now and show you the last 4 years of me writing down what my purpose is.
Is that a millennial thing? The whole like millennial and older, where it's like, oh, we gotta have pen to paper. Do you think people feel that way now?
I think psychologically, there's actually something that your brain does.
I agree, but like, do kids do like the younger people feel that way now? I wonder. Anyway,
I don't know.
sidetrack.
Yeah. Well, that's our time.
Okay,
What do you think?
I'm good.
What do you think, stomach? We're gonna start including it. All right. Love you.
Love you too.
That was horrible.